Hi, I'm Paul from Hansel AMS. In this video, we're going to talk about user matching. So user matching is the process of identifying and matching different events and devices to one real person, which is super important nowadays with the increase of ITP and tracking prevention. I hope by the end of this video you will have learned our approach to user matching and why it's crucial for any e-commerce business. Let's get going. So as mentioned, user matching is the process of identifying different events and visitor IDs from different devices to one real person. Let's look at Frank. Frank had 3 different sessions over the span of 1 week. First he came via his mobile phone. 2 days later he came again via his mobile phone, but his cookies were deleted in the meantime. 3 days later he made a purchase, but he came via his laptop. In each case he had a different visitor ID. So now the question becomes, how can we know that these 3 different visitor IDs belong to Frank? So for this we need to know everything we can about our users. So for instance, what cookie they had, what IP address they used, what user agent they had. Let's take an example of IP address. On the left hand side you can see 200 different visitor IDs coming with the same IP address. This is likely not belonging to the same person. On the right hand side you can see 2 different visitor IDs with the same IP address. It's much more likely that these 2 visitor IDs belong to the same person. Based on historical information, we know the chance of 2 different events belong to the same person, because in some cases people log in and we know the customer ID. Based on this chart, you can see, for instance, that when 2 different visitor IDs have the same IP address, the chance of them belonging to the same person is 95%. But this chance drops the more different visitor IDs we see with the same person. So now that we know from historical data what the chance of different visitor IDs belong to the same person is, we can then build a network out of it, where each node corresponds to one visitor ID and the link between those nodes corresponding to the likelihood of these 2 different visitor IDs belonging to the same person. Zooming out, we can then see a big network where each node again corresponds to one visitor ID. And we then run a clustering algorithm over it to subdivide this big network into individual subclusters. Each individual subcluster corresponds to one person. The final output will be a database table. Could be MySQL, Snowflake, Postgres, whatever you might use. So here you can see a real example with different visitor IDs belonging to different person IDs. You can see Frank here, for instance, with his 3 different visitor IDs. So we're successfully able to match his different events to him, to Frank. So that's it. In a simplified manner, we explained our approach to user matching. So this was everything about user matching. I hope you found the information interesting. If so, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Feel free to reach out in case you have any questions.